Welcome to the Sunriver Anglers Fly Tying Corner, where each month we bring you a new fly pattern to give a try to on our Central Oregon lakes and rivers. In addition to showing you how to tie each pattern, I'll feature fishing technique tips and tricks, and I'll cover some of the entomology behind each pattern to help gain a better understanding of the bugs that we're trying to imitate. I have field tested each of the patterns that I feature each month to make sure that they catch fish. I'll cover tying instructions for the fly as well as materials to help you be able to recreate these patterns on your own vise. For this month's pattern, I'm going to try Smitherman's Draggin Nymph. I've been searching for a real good dragonfly nymph pattern for quite some time now, and I think with Smithermans I've stumbled across it. This fly is relatively easy to tie. It's got some unique techniques and materials, and the early trials out at Crane Prairie have proved very promising. Been real happy with the way this fly has performed. So give this one a try. I think you'll like it. Let me briefly introduce the materials on this fly pattern, and I'll cover them in greater detail during each step as we tie the fly. So let me introduce the first couple materials. For a hook, I'm using a Firehole jig hook. This is a 5/16 in size 10. For the thread, I'm using Ultra 140 denier in olive. So let's get started tying Smitherman's Draggin Nymph. I'm going to begin by tying my thread on and building a base on the hook, and then I'll return the thread up close to the front of the hook, and I'm going to build a little bump, and this bump is where I'm going to tie my eyes into. For the eyes on this fly, I'm using a stealth chain from Hairline in black, and this is medium or 3.2 millimeter. So now I'm going to tie the eye in right at this little bump, and I'm going to tie it with a number of figure-8 wraps over the eyes, and then several wraps underneath both eyes, kind of straddling the bead chain and tying it in tightly. You could add a little drop of super glue here. I don't know that it's necessary if you do a good job binding with your thread, but that's an option. For the abdomen on this fly, I'm using Senjo's laser dub in olive. This has a little bit of flash, but more importantly it has very long fibers, and you'll see why as I tie the fly. That's important. The next step is to prepare the laser dubbing to build the abdomen for this pattern. So I'm going to start with a bunch of laser dub, and I'm going to try and align the fibers as best as possible. And I'll use my dubbing needle for part of this work, and ultimately I'm just stroking the materials and trying to align them. With the fibers reasonably aligned, I'm going to go ahead and fold this material in half to create the little bubble-shaped abdomen for the dragonfly nymph. So then I'm going to cut off all the loose fibers on the open end of this bubble. And from here, I'm going to use a lighter to go ahead and singe the butt ends of this material, and then I'll use my thumb and forefinger to press it gently together to form a little nub that's the back end of this Dragonfly Nymph abdomen. I apply the flame probably a couple of times and then press it together. So now I'll take that bubble and I'll tie the folded end of this in against the eye and wind it all the way back to the tail set position to set the abdomen in place. So once the abdomen's tied in, I'm going to go ahead and either grab a black Sharpie or a brown Sharpie, and I'm going to paint some stripes on the abdomen to give it that segmentation that dragonfly nymphs are known for. With the way I've tied in the eyes, this fly will ride with the hook pointed upward. And so it's important to try and get this segmentation all around all sides of the abdomen. I'm using a Schlappen Hackle on this fly to kind of spread some leggy looking stuff over the abdomen. And I'm using whiting Schlappen for this. So I've cleaned off some barbs off the tip, and I'll tie that in right against the forward section of the abdomen. And then I'll take a couple 3 winds of this feather and tie it off, and then I'll wind the thread back over the hackle feather to kind of force it backwards. I'll do a little bit better job of this with the dubbing, but I'll start with my thread here. For the legs, I'm using Barred Crazy Legs, and these are a pearl flake in olive. So I've taken 2 leg fibers, and I'm going to tie them in right against the abdomen hackle, and I'll go ahead and put just a couple of light wraps on it, and then I'll adjust them and pull them off to the side. I want these right off to the side of the fly, and then I'll tie that down a little more firmly and cut off the excess. For the thorax, I'm using a blend of olive, spiky squirrel dubbing, SLF dubbing, and hairline ice dub in olive brown. And I'm mixing this about 2/3, 1/3. So I'm going to go ahead and spin some dubbing onto the thread, and then I'll wind that over the thorax area to build a base. And once I've done that, I'm going to come back to the middle of the thorax between the eyes and that first set of legs. And I'm going to go ahead and tie in a second and third set of legs. I've cut a section of my rubber legs off about an inch and a quarter long, and I'm going to tie those in right at the center of the leg and with a couple soft wraps, and then I will go ahead and tie or spread those out to either side of the fly, and then a couple of more firm wraps to tie them down. And from there, I will tie or spin some more dubbing on the thread, and I'm going to wind some dubbing to set those legs apart a bit and tie it up in and around the eyes and in front of the eyes to finish off this fly. And then I'm going to tie in 2 whip finishes and trim off the thread. The very last step is I'm going to put just a little dab of super glue on that the end of the abdomen, just to make sure those fibers hold together effectively. So let me rotate the vise so you can see all sides of Smitherman's Draggin Nymph. So that has been your Sunriver Anglers Fly Tying Corner for this month. I hope you'll give Smitherman's Draggin Nymph a try. This appears to be a pretty good pattern. It's taken some real nice fish out at Crane Prairie. If you like what you see, please subscribe to this YouTube page and follow us at Sunriver Anglers on Facebook. Thanks for watching.